trick-track-tracking over my bridge. You're about to be my supper tonight.
On September 25th, Jiffy Jeff and I traveled to Duluth, Minnesota, where I immediately fell in love with Lake Superior and its wild expanse. I also was stunned by the amount of old buildings. Many, like this one here, have been repurposed. This building is now the Portland Malt Shop, and Jeff and I waited with others in the rain to have one of their famous malts. We chose the chocolate malt, and we both agreed it's the best chocolate malt either one of us has ever had. Highly recommend. Another old building that fascinated me was Fitger's Brewery. They've been in operation since the 1880s. When we went inside, some of the areas have been repurposed into shops, a liquor store, hotel, but it was the eatery that really drew us. We had a delicious meal, and Jiffy Jeff enjoyed the cherry lager, which is very special and only available during this time of the year. The Fitger's Brewery inspired me by its creepiness. Even with all the new shops inside, and it was very active with people all around, there was definitely a spooky vibe, partly due to the old photographs from the olden days of the brewery. Look at this photo with these guys. Look at that. Some of their eyes are just, well, I'm telling you, it's spooky. Spooky as all get out to walk past them in a dark hallway. As I edit this video, it's October. Time for spooky stories, and boy do I have one that fits up perfectly with the old brewery. Let's begin. It was a cold, wet, blustery night that surrounded old drunk Albert as he stumbled up the hill towards his home from the bar. He'd put in a full, long, hard day at the docks there in Duluth that year in 1889, and he'd not felt a minute of warmth. Chilled he was, chilled to the bone. I'll catch my death in this kind of weather. And so he'd stopped at the bar to have a few beers, some of that Fitger's beers, it was his favorite, hoping it would put some warmth in his bones, but it hadn't. He just felt chilled and so cold. But he'd had plenty of beer, that's for sure. And he staggered something awful, trying to stay on his feet as he made his way up the hill. And then, with the wind blowing and the rain, well, that's when the coffin started following old Albert. The sound it made was so wretched, so horrible. Old Albert was frightened at once, and he tried to hurry as fast as he could, but the coffin followed him. He reached his small shanty home, swung open the door, hurried inside with the coffin right behind him, went into a cupboard and pulled out a bottle of cough medicine. He uncapped it and poured it on the coffin, and the coffin stopped. How long old Albert lived after that, I do not know. But that photo in this picture, it looks a lot like Albert, and he sure did like his Fitger's beer. I wonder if old Albert used one-night cough syrup. Seen here, a real cough syrup from the 1880s. It contained alcohol, cannabis, chloroform, and morphine. That'd stop just about anything. Another building that fascinated me, the old Duluth Central High School, built in 1892. It was famed not only for its grand clock tower that you could see from far away, but also for its sweeping stairways with iron banisters, beautiful statuary, wide halls, chandeliers, a huge fireplace in the library, and it even had a teaching museum on the top floor. The old Central High School definitely deserves an Oopsie Annie, Oopsie Spooky story. It was Halloween night, and Leroy and Jack, 12 years old, were bored. They'd been out trick-or-treating, filled up on lots of sugar, and now what to do? They'd seen every horror movie that was on TV that night, and they wanted to be scared. It was Halloween. Leroy and Jack had always been curious about the old Duluth Central High School. They imagined that it was full of ghosts. How cool it would be to go over there and explore and maybe see one. And so they concocted a plan. They waited until the parents were asleep, and then Leroy went and got some flashlights. Jack brought along a camera. Never knew what you might see. And then they snuck out of the house. It was only a 10-minute walk over to the school. They found a boy-sized hole in the fence. How convenient. And they snuck through it. And then they went around and they looked in all the windows. They found a broken basement window, and Jack, the braver of the two boys, jumped right through it and landed easily on his sneakers on the filthy basement floor, and then Leroy followed him. They clicked on their flashlights and immediately, with childhood innocence, began poking around all the dusty corners. They weren't finding any ghosts at all. They were just finding a lot of trash. When they came to the old boiler room, moving the flashlight around, they saw crumbling bricks. They went over and saw that there was a space behind the crumbling bricks. It looked like a door was back there. They began moving the bricks, thinking maybe they might find a secret treasure or something. It wasn't a treasure they found when the door finally opened on its rusty hinges. It was a body. Oh, the boys screamed. All bravery was gone. They ran through the basement, stumbling and falling to the basement window, climbed out of it, ran through the yard, through the hole in the fence, and back to the house, where they told the parents that there was a body in the basement of the old Central High School. The parents called the cops, but the cops, seeing that it was Halloween night, thought that they were being pranked, so they waited until the morning to go check it out. But when they got there in the morning, the cops realized that the boys were telling the truth, and a coroner was called. It took about a week to identify the bones. They learned that in 1903, on Halloween, there'd been a big party held at the school. Seems that an Edwin Melford had won the hide-and-seek game, and he'd never come forward to claim his prize. In fact, he'd never left his hiding place. Some folks think Edwin still resides at the school, waiting to claim his prize. What do you think? The story you've just heard is a work of fiction, or maybe not. Love all life around you. Be inspired, be grateful, birth joy, even on Halloween.